Good morning, everybody. Another edition of On the Road again with Shaggy, coming from a different vehicle this time, because as you may have heard of on the radio show, mine is in the shop, which is the main reason why you haven't been getting so many On the Road agains this week. I'm in the wife's car, which makes this a little bit more difficult, and honestly, I haven't been feeling it this week. Mixture of not getting enough sleep and worries about the car and everything just doesn't make for really doing an upbeat tempo show, which is why this is not going to be an upbeat tempo show. I got a message from a listener. First messages from listeners, always like those. Don't forget, you can tweet at PTR Radio, or you can always email in on the road again at PTR, on the road at PTR Radio will come to me. But this person tweeted in and said that they enjoyed the podcast, and they wanted to get my view on the Hollywood or celebrity suicides. And, I took some time and did a little bit of research, and then promptly left all the research at home. Plus, it's a little bit difficult to do some of that while I'm driving, because I want to be able to do things like give you what the help numbers are and stuff like that. So what I'm thinking I may do is give you a little bit of the topic now, and then record one tomorrow on Saturday from my office, where I can have that information in front of me, and then I'll probably meld those two together. So if this is another kind of disjointed episode where half of it's here and then you got to wait and another half is in, 7 minutes, I apologize for that, but I want to make sure that I cover this topic thoroughly. And I think it's important whenever we talk about this that we not only talk about the subject of suicide, but also where you can get help. Because if we only talk about the subject and not what we can do to work against it, then I think all we're doing is we're glorifying it. And that's not what we want to do. We want to get people in touch with folks that can help them out if they're contemplating it, or if they're suffering a loss because of it, or whatever the case may be. We want to make sure that you can reach out and that you can get the assistance that you need in your area. And I do have the information for that. So stay tuned in this episode. You will get that information. So most recently this week, we had two notable celebrity deaths. We had Kate Spade, who I will be honest, I was not familiar with. Although the moment that my wife brought up the name, she knew exactly who she was going to talk about. She's like, oh yeah, she's a designer. She does handbags. She can't afford them. And all I knew was, hey, she's probably related to David Spade. But that was one death, and then the other one was Anthony Bourdain. Now, I knew Anthony Bourdain from, Destination Unknown and several other shows. So, he was familiar to me. So, if I talk a little bit more about him, it's not because I don't care about Kate Spade's death. It's just because I don't know her as well. So, no offense to Kate Spade's family. You seem like wonderful people, and she seems like a wonderful person. I just, I don't know that much about her. Anthony Bourdain also, I don't know a whole lot, but I've heard a couple of stories lately, and seems like a really interesting person. Both of them, unfortunately, left young children and families behind, which is so often the case with this. The hurt never ends with the suicide. It always extends out to the family, to the friends. And so many times there are small children that are left behind, and that is a tragedy that they not only have to deal with the loss of a parent, but a tragic loss that they weren't expecting, and that many people say they never saw coming. There was nothing there to alert them to it. Many interviews said, I just talked to so-and-so, and they were upbeat and they were looking forward to this or that coming up in their life. And, it's a common thread, unfortunately, that even those closest to the people suffering don't know what's truly going on underneath the surface. So many people put up a facade of everything's okay. We all see those commercials where the woman is holding up a smiley face mask because she doesn't want to show the world her depression or her anxiety. And while we all make fun of those commercials, the meaning behind them is real. That is what people deal with. All right. Not something that I've necessarily shared on the show, but I might have mentioned it on the Road Again segment. There was a while where I really dealt with depression to the point where I was getting medication to help me with it. All right, that was really tough. That was a really tough time in my life that I had to deal with, and I won't go into what caused it, but I had some not so great thoughts that I needed to work myself through. Now, I didn't go to counseling. I probably should have. I didn't go. But luckily, I had a good support group at home, and I had a doctor who understood what I was going through and gave me a prescription that one thing you have to understand, when you're prescribed medication to help you with anxiety or depression or whatever, it is not a miracle cure. Okay? As I was explained to it, and as I've told other people, the medication you're given to help with depression or anxiety or anything else like that it will not make those things go away. What it is meant to do is to even it out, so that the lows aren't quite so low that you can't handle them, and so that the highs aren't so high that you can't handle them. It's to take out the extremes. Because if you go through life not feeling, well, then what is life? You don't want to walk around in a cloud, in a fog. You want to live, and living is feeling. Living is hard. It's also exciting. If you get rid of the hard, you don't get the exciting. But you also need to know when it's too hard and when you need help. So, like I said, I dealt with that. I was on a prescription called sertraline for a long time. It's basically the generic of Prozac. So, I'm man enough to admit that I needed that help. I've now worked kind of past that, and I'm back to a point where I can handle things on my own, and when I get into a situation where I feel overwhelmed, I can take good steps to get myself out of the situation and, calm down and, look at it with an objective perspective. But not everybody, recognizes the situation in the first place. Not everybody can do those things. Also, if you've ever dealt with addiction, it becomes that much harder, because a lot of times those types of situations are just triggers to fall back into addiction. So, you find those things happening, and a lot of the people that you find that have committed suicide, at least on the celebrity side, they have fought with addiction sometime in their life. And I would hazard to guess that toward the end of their life, their thought was, well, either I'm going to fall back into addiction because of these causes, or I just have to end it. And I'm here to tell you there's always another way. Like I said, I will give you information on where to get help, how to get help, and we want you to get help. If you're struggling with any of these things that I'm talking about, we want you to find help. There is a nationwide number that you can call, and while it's nationwide in the U.S., they will connect you with local resources. It will connect you with someone that is local to your area, and they will talk to you about not only what you're going through, but the resources that are available locally to you, either covered by your insurance, which a lot of insurances now cover mental health, or at no or low cost options. It used to be that these things were very expensive and that a lot of people were worried about that, and so that's why they didn't pursue it. But now I think we're finally getting over the stigma of mental health, and everybody's recognizing, hey, if we deal with the mental health issues, it's cheaper in the long run. So luckily, I think everybody is finding out, hey, let's cover this, let's get people help. So, I know that we as a show, PTR Radio, we care about every one of our listeners. We really, really do. Okay, we care about people that aren't listeners too. I mean, we're genuinely decent human beings, or at least we try to be. And so if you're suffering, if you're confused, if you're having, a bad day, and you don't have anybody else to reach out to us. Okay? We'll be more than happy to take that tweet or take that email and respond to you. I mean, we just want you to know that there are people out here for you. I mean, it's truly tragic that people think that the only way out is suicide. There are other options. It shouldn't be that way. And, I wish that people had known about the troubles that these people were having. Now, let's talk a little bit about that. The troubles that people have. Okay? Some people erroneously think just because these folks were celebrities, they shouldn't have any problems. Well, that's not true. We all have problems. Okay? Everybody has a problem. I don't care how good you have it. You have a problem. All right? Money doesn't solve everything. We've talked about that before. It can definitely help certain situations. If you have money, you don't have to worry about where you're going to live. But let's take Anthony Bourdain for example. All right, Anthony Bourdain had a life where he traveled a lot. That was his job, to travel and to write and to do a TV show. Did that make for a stable family life for him? Probably not. He probably had a lot of, anxiety and worry about his family and how they were doing, because I guarantee he didn't see them as much as what he wanted to, but he had to do what he had to do to bring home the bacon as it was. That was a life that he chose to live, and it comes with a certain level of problems with it. So that's probably one of the things that he was dealing with. I don't know all of them. I'm just guessing here. But just because you're famous, just because you have money, doesn't mean that you don't have problems. Sometimes it means you have even more problems than a regular person, because you've got people coming after you going, hey, you've got money, can I have some? Or can you get me a job? Or can you get me this or that or the other? You've got people constantly bombarding you, asking you for things because you have them and they don't. Okay, that's one of the issues that these people deal with that we don't have to as normal individuals. Think of it this way. If you have a pickup truck, all right, you get asked to help people move. Whereas your buddy with the compact car, he doesn't have that problem. But you'd never say that you have it all just because you have the pickup truck. All right? Or that you don't ever have any problems. That's just not how it works. So, I mean, we've got to stop saying that there's no reason for people not to have problems. It's not true. Everybody has problems, whether they're on the surface or not. One of the saddest things that we ever learned on the show was when Robin Williams passed away due to suicide, because he brought joy to so many people, yet obviously he was hurting so much inside. And there's a new documentary coming out on HBO that's a must-watch for me. Not even a have-to-watch. It's a must-watch for me, talking about the life and times of Robin Williams and his personal inner demons. And that's one that like I said, I'm going to watch it because I think it's going to be enlightening to see what we found out he was dealing with on the inside that caused him to make that decision. All right? Because that was a man who really lit up a room every time that he walked in. He was the center of attention, and sometimes those people put on those masks to hide a lot of pain. And so I will be curious as to how his life went. But I mean, you can look out through history, and there are a ton of examples of people who were in a lot of pain, and they thought suicide was the only way out. And unfortunately, that means that they were taken from us way before they should have been. So I do want you guys to know there are resources, there's people who care, and that, we're here for you if you don't think you have anyone else to turn to. So, like I said, I will be going through some stats, and I'll be going through some resources that you can reach out to. And if none of those work for you, or if you're scared or whatever, first of all, don't be. Don't be scared to ask for help. Everybody needs help. And it shouldn't be something that you're worried about. But if you are, you can always get a hold of us. Okay? There's nothing wrong with getting a hold of 3 idiots on the web. Right? We reach out to people on the web all the time. And that's what we're here for. I mean, we live for you listeners. That's why we do this. So, always feel free to get a hold of us, if nothing else. And we will try to help you as best as we can. We may not always have the answers, but we'll always have an ear to listen to whatever your problems are. So there'll be more to this episode, so don't turn it off. Keep it turned on, and I will be right back with some more information regarding suicide prevention, some of the stats surrounding it, and what you need to know to get the help if you need it. All right, and we're back. This is a continuation of my discussion regarding suicide prevention. Those of you that may be going through a crisis right now, and some of the details that I wanted to record when I was away from the car so that I could have them in front of me and I could talk intelligently about them. First of all, if you are fighting with the thoughts of suicide, or if you are depressed, I want you to know that, again, like I said, you are not alone. You are not the only one going through this. In fact, the statistics say that you are more like than dislike. On average, there are 123 suicides per day. If you're a white male, 7 out of 10 of the suicides that were performed in 2016 were white males, usually between 30 and 40 years old. Now, one of the staggering statistics is that there has been a sharp increase in the amount of suicides, both in the 15 to 24, as well as in the 25 to 34 ranges. So those are the ages that we're seeing an increase in suicide rates, and that's a disturbing trend. Right now, the only age group which seems to be decreasing, and it's a very minimal decrease, is 15 and under. This also tends to be primarily Black or American Indian population that is doing this. The numbers are much lower for Black and Asian Pacific Islander, as we can see from the 2000 to 2016 studies. If you do have a loved one that is fighting with this, I will tell you the statistics say firearms are the most common method. So if they have firearms and you can secure them away from the individual, you will be doing them a great service. All right. Do not be afraid to take things that can harm someone away from them if, they are in the situation where they're having trouble dealing with things, or that if you think that they are having issues. All right. You as a family member, just tell them, hey, listen, I'm concerned. I want to try and help you. Just let me take these away for a while until we can get you some help. They may not even think they need some help, but just try to talk them into it if you can. Don't be confrontational, obviously, but, do the best that you can. There are several different foundations. There's obviously the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, which is afsp.org. That's where I'm getting a lot of my stats from. I can tell you that, every year 44,965 Americans die by suicide. Unfortunately, the statistics I have are primarily defined to the American side of things. I know we have international listeners. I'm sure there's statistics for your country as well. Suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in the U.S., which is obviously very troubling. On average, suicide costs the U.S. $69 billion annually. So, and I know that never should come down to money, but that is something to keep in mind. There are some states, obviously, which are more, where this happens more, happens less. I'm not even going to get into that. So there are different ways that if you are in crisis, you can get help. If you want to text someone for help, you can text TALK to 741741. That's TALK to 741741. So maybe you wouldn't be comfortable talking to someone. You want that text conversation. There are trained people that can help you, for lack of a better term, down from off the edge. Okay, these are people that can discuss the problem with you. They can help you find local resources. They're trained volunteers. They're not medical professionals, so they can't give you medical opinions, but they can help point you in the direction of medical opinions. So if you're having trouble and you don't feel comfortable talking, text is always an option. If you do feel like picking up the phone and talking to someone one-on-one, you need that personal connection. That number is 1-800-273-TALK. That's 1-800-273-8255. You can call that number. Both of those are staffed 24/7, 365. And I would encourage you that if you are having trouble, even if it's not related to suicide, if it is, you're just having trouble dealing with something, an emotional problem, I would contact them. Now, just to give you an idea of what happens, say when you text in. So whenever you text in anywhere in the U.S., there's going to be an automated message saying, hey, we're connecting you with a local crisis counselor. And, so don't be afraid. It's not a bot. There's a bot telling you that they're connecting you. But after that, you're actually passed off to a crisis counselor that will introduce themselves, reflect on what you've told them, and then invite you to share information at your own pace. You're not forced to share anything you're not comfortable with, but they're more than willing to listen to anything that you have to say. The conversation will end when you and the crisis counselor are comfortable that you've decided that you're in a cool, safe place and that no harm is going to come to you. The goal of the conversation is to keep you calm, get you into a safe place, a stable mental condition, and then to help refer you over to other longer term solutions. So a conversation can last anywhere from 15 to 45 minutes or longer, whatever is needed. So that's the idea for what the text conversation usually goes with. The phone conversation might be a tad bit more involved. I don't have a walkthrough for that, unfortunately. But there are a ton of resources for you. So, whatever your problem is, I urge you to reach out, get the resource that you need, get some help, and start the work to move forward. It's not an instant fix, but the point is that we want to make sure that you're safe, that you have the information that you need. And again, just so that you have that information, the number for the Suicide Prevention Lifeline is 1-800-273-8255. That's 1-800-273-TALK, or you can always text the word TALK to 741741, and they'll be happy to help you however they can. Again, I thought it was important that we tag in the information on how you can get help into this kind of reflection on what's been going on, because without giving you the tools to help yourself or to find help for other people, I think we're doing a disservice to you, and we never want to do that. As also I mentioned, if worst case scenario, if you think you have no one else to turn to, or you just really feel comfortable talking to us three idiots, we are always available to you as well. We're not going to be as trained as these people are, but we'll try to help however we can. So anyway, I just wanted to get that information in there so that you guys can have all the information that you need. Again, those numbers are 1-800-273-TALK, 1-800-273-8255, or you can text the word TALK to 741741. Normally I end this by saying I'm at my destination and I'll see you next time on the road, but I'm sitting at my desk. So I guess you'll hear from me on the next episode of On the Road Again. Be safe, everybody.